Okay, in addition to the central dogma of molecular biology, this DNA being a template for RNA, which is a template for proteins, and then proteins being the working molecules, the functional molecules inside your cells. In addition to that, as I think you're probably aware, DNA molecules are also replicated. And this happens as a normal part of the cycle of a cell. So most of the time, the cell is just doing its cellular processes. Before cell division begins, DNA is replicated. So a copy is made, and it doesn't work quite like a photocopier. Here's a little schematic of how it works. We're not going to talk in depth about it. We're not going to talk about it beyond this slide, really, the replication of DNA, but it happens. This is a topic you'll cover more in BY 171. So DNA replication happens before cell division happens. And I'm talking about this now because what I want to look into closely with you is, what does a chromosome look like? So we've seen some cartoons of chromosomes. Maybe you've seen actual images of real chromosomes. What constitutes a chromosome? And I know this was something when I was first starting out learning biology that I felt confused by. And so I want to talk through it with you. One of the things that makes this maybe a little bit confusing is that when we visualize actual chromosomes, we can only distinguish them from each other when they are condensed. Chromosomes are only condensed in the process of cell division, and before a cell divides, the DNA is replicated. So anytime we're actually seeing a real picture of chromosomes, they're duplicated chromosomes, and that's what's shown here in this karyotype. So this is a human, so you can see we've got 22 pairs of autosomes and 1 pair of sex chromosomes. And if we just look at this cartoon here, what you can see is that for each chromosome, we've got like 4 kind of lines. Like if you were drawing a little cartoon of this, you would have drawn 4 lines. And these 4 lines are kind of into X's, right? So one question is like, is a chromosome the line or is a chromosome an X? What is a chromosome? And the answer is it can be both. So what we've got here are 2 duplicated chromosomes. So through most of the cell cycle, a chromosome is not condensed. It's like, I've given you the analogy of like a bowl of spaghetti. It's a long molecule. All of these chromosomes together are not condensed, and they're all kind of just hanging out loose inside the nucleus, like spaghetti noodles, okay? So if we took a picture of the nucleus, then it would just kind of look blobby, like we couldn't tell the individual chromosomes apart from each other. This is in the middle of the cell cycle. The chromosomes have duplicated it's in the middle of cell division. The chromosomes have duplicated, then they're condensed, and now here we're getting this picture. And they don't look like this in the cell. This is a picture where they've taken the picture and then like cut out the chromosomes and like moved them around to be near each other, right? They don't like hang out like this inside the cell. Okay, so we've got these 2 X's, right? Each one is a duplicated chromosome. If this was before DNA replication, then the cell would just have one of these and one of these, and they would be uncoiled, and that would be 2 chromosomes. Here, we've got 2 duplicated chromosomes. So what we don't have is 4 chromosomes. We have 2 duplicated chromosomes. Each chromosome right now consists of 2 sister chromatids. So sister chromatids are identical to each other, exactly the same. They are the product of DNA replication. These 2 chromatids compared to these 2 are non-sister chromatids. They're homologous. They've got the same genes in the same places, which is shown to you by these different colors, right? There's a pink gene here, orange gene, green gene in the same places, but they might have different alleles. So if the pink gene is like an eye color gene, this pair of sister chromatids maybe has a blue pigment protein, instructions for a blue pigment. This gene maybe has the allele for a brown pigment, a different pigment, right? So slightly different DNA sequence is going to give us a slightly different protein. So it's still going to be an eye pigment protein, but it's going to have a slightly different shape, which might end up giving a slightly different color. All right, so what is a chromosome? If it's during the process of cell division, early in the process of cell division, before any actual divisions have occurred, then a chromosome is this pair of sister chromatids. If it's somewhere else in the cell cycle, a chromosome might just be one of these chromatids. So a chromosome would be composed of one chromatid. A duplicated chromosome is composed of two chromatids. Okay, so the line versus the X, what a chromosome looks like depends on where you are in the cell cycle. So this whole thing together is a pair of homologous duplicated chromosomes. Okay, because we've got a pair, this tells us that this is a diploid cell. If this was a triploid cell, we'd have 1, 2, 3 pairs of sister chromatids. Okay, they're homologous. They've got this homologous, same, think of this as location, same genes in the same places. Okay, and each one is duplicated. All right, so again, this terminology, there's it's context dependent, and there are layers. Okay, so you're going to have to take a little bit of time to think through. So when you go to a cartoon of some cellular process like this cartoon of mitosis, take a second and ask yourself, what is this cartoon showing me? Okay, in this case, this cell is showing me something that I wouldn't actually ever see. This chromosome cartoon is condensed, but this is just somewhere in the cell cycle. So really this would be uncondensed, like our piece of spaghetti. But this cell has one chromosome and only one type of every chromosome. So this is a haploid cell with a haploid number of 1, a cell with one copy of every chromosome and also only one type of chromosome. Here, after chromosome duplication, still it's a haploid cell with one type of chromosome, but this chromosome is duplicated. Okay. That's a little confusing. You can think about like these sister chromatids are identical, so we don't really have any new information or different information in these cells. These two sister chromatids are exactly the same as one another, so just having two copies doesn't give us anything more than what we had in this cell. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more about mitosis, meiosis next time, leading into our discussion of where variation comes from and why we care. But I wanted to give you this little snippet about chromosomes. What is a chromosome? What does it look like, to help you interpret that terminology and also interpret these different cartoons and diagrams when you come across them.